Good evening, croeso, and welcome. I don't know whether you've been on that page and seen me talking to myself for 2 minutes, but I can't seem to get my PC to work. Anyway, so here I am back on the iPhone, and I know last week I used my headphones and people going like, I can't hear you. So I'm hoping that you can hear me tonight. So if you are listening, remember, I'd be extremely grateful if you just kind of put your thumb up or anything like that, just so that everybody else knows the event is happening. However, if I'm talking by myself, that's quite okay, because it's information I want to get out there, and hopefully, you can listen to it again at another time. So today's talk has been requested because so many people are saying that they've put on weight over Christmas, that weight loss is really important to them, but more importantly, as well as putting on weight, their body is changing shape. And we're going to have a look at, why does your body change shape? Let me sit in my chair quite comfortably. Why does your body change shape? Hello, everybody. How are we all? Good evening. Nice to see you all there. As I've been rushing from my Pilates class, and I don't know where you live, but it is very, very windy in Borth at the moment, and it is quite cold. So I feel like I've got a bit of a brain freeze going on. How are we? Oh, hi, Adele. You made it home as well. We just had a lovely Pilates class, first class back of 2024. Hiya, Pauline. So this is all going to be about tackling belly fat. As you know, I've done a lot of work on menopause. I'm now considered a menopause expert, which is quite nice to know. And when we had a meeting not so long ago, like an ethics meeting, where we brought in training providers to say, oh yeah, but weight loss, that's what people are coming to personal trainers for. So if you're on my fitness page, you might be somebody who's dead interested in exercise, but really sometimes the frustration is that you can't lose the weight. And I get that frustration, okay? Because I'm one of those people who find it very challenging to lose weight, despite all the classes that I do and despite my healthy eating. When I was doing my research into my menopause course, what I did was I came across a lot of really interesting research around the differences in the way that our body burns fat as we get older. And so this is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the different types of fat that we have and why it is called stubborn fat, but also what to do about it. So if you are somebody out there who kind of feels like they're looking a little bit more frumpy, now this can be men or women, we'll start to notice a change from what we call a pear shape to an apple shape. So an apple shaped person will have more like a rounded body and skinny legs, whereas a pear shaped person tends to have a very skinny body, but maybe more rounded around the hips and the thighs. And we change our body shape as we get older because of the way that the body lays down fat. As somebody who's been a personal trainer, I've worked with clients who come to me and I've got really frustrated because I kind of go like, I'm giving them all the exercise and they're not losing weight, and kind of not blaming them, but kind of not believing that they're doing the workout that I've given them. Now that I'm older, I know that is not the case. And I think that weight loss for many people, especially in January, is a real driver to go and do exercise. Personally, for me, I'm not hung up about my body weight. So I don't have that driver to want to lose weight. But if you're somebody who feels that their weight is causing a health issue, then this session is definitely for you. So let's have a look at some of the things that are carrying on. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to put your arm out like this. I want you to grab underneath your arm and I want you to pinch. Okay, do you remember we used to call it pinch an inch? You can't say pinch a centimetre. It doesn't quite work, does it? So where we hold our fat is dependent upon our gender. There are, of course, some different anomalies, but usually women have a higher percentage of body fat. And this is to do with reproduction, so that we have sufficient energy to grow a whole human and then to feed that human for the next year of its life. Now that means we tend to hold the fat in the region where we need to do those things. So you tend to have more fat at the back of your arm, around this area for your breasts and around your hips. Whereas males will tend to need to have very strong muscles in the upper body, so they have more muscle mass in the upper body, but will tend to hold more fat around the belly area. So the pinch the inch fat is just storage, all right? Doesn't do anything, doesn't go anywhere, and you have to work quite hard to burn it off. This is white fat. It's metabolically inactive, okay? It is just like having your suitcase full of your summer clothes that you're not going to wear till summer. And trying to access that fat store requires you to burn off more energy than you're consuming. And people do that in different ways. So number one, they can do it by burning more calories or by eating less. And the most effective way is, of course, to do a little bit of both. And so this kind of calorie balance, where we look at what's called the thermogenic effect and how do we burn off calories. Thermogenesis is the way that we physically burn calories, all right? So how do we burn calories? We create heat. So when we exercise, we get hot, okay? So you get red in the face, and you also then release water, so you start sweating. Those are key signs that you are burning your fat at the time of the workout, okay? So if you're running down the street and you get a very red face and you're sweating, you should be feeling proud that your body is in the actual process then and there of burning off the inert fat that's being stored around your body. Other ways we can make our body hot is by eating food. So you may notice that when you have a meal, especially if it's a large meal, that you feel very warm afterwards. And that's because your body has increased its metabolic rate in order to burn off calories. So you have what's called a baseline metabolic rate, and that is based on how many calories do you need to burn. Okay, so think of like a fire to burn whilst you're not doing anything. So, you know, how many calories do you need to breathe in and out, keep your heart beating, keep your gut moving around and digesting your food. But that's not exercise. So that basal metabolic rate tends to be the same for most people, okay? Majority of us, our basal metabolic rate is the same. When we want to burn calories, we have to boost that metabolism by maybe exercising, maybe eating different kinds of food. So that's why you'll see different diets where they're going to go, oh, you need to eat little and often, or you need to starve yourself and then eat a lot of food. That kind of thing where you're kind of playing about with your metabolism. But it's not an exact science. So the way that we burn the fat is through muscle mass. So the muscle contracts, and then the muscle, within the muscle cell, you have proteins, okay, that move. Fair enough. And as they move, they kind of go, we need energy. So your body kind of goes, well, I'll release energy from your bloodstream first, okay, so it starts to burn sugar. And when you've been exercising for a while, it says, I need a foodstuff or an energy that has more calories, and it starts to burn body fat. So fat burning potential is related around usually both the time or length that you're doing the workout and also how hard you're working. So if you were to go for a stroll down the prom, okay, nice easy pace, you're probably not demanding many more calories than just standing about in your kitchen doing, I don't know, housework jobs or, you know, doing the gardening. But if you were then to go to the end of the prom, everybody in Aberystwyth, if you're not in Aberystwyth, bear with me, and you walk up Constitution Hill, your demand for calories increases. So you will get hot, you will get sweaty, and that is because you are burning more of your calories in your body. Now, this all seems really logical, sensible advice, and an easy way to understand what's called fat burning potential, but is mainly related to what's called this subcutaneous fat, the fat you can pinch on your body. So if you were to, I think there's loads of apps out there at the moment saying, you know, lose your belly fat with this walking app. So walking, okay, because it's an easy thing you can do for a long period of time, means that you're ticking things over. When you're working at that low level, about 50% of your calories will come from fat if you can sustain that level for more than about 20 minutes. Now, the fitter you are, you know, the less time you have to work out for in order to burn your fat. Keep that in mind. But if you're not very active, you really need to be walking at that low level pace for about 20 minutes to get a 50% burn from your fat. Now, these aren't exact figures, okay? But that changes as we exercise. So if you exercise hard, like you work constantly, you might not take 20 minutes. Maybe it takes you 10 minutes. Your calorie burn is higher. So even though your percentage of body fat is lower, your total calorie burn is higher. And then you have something called an EPOC. Okay, so EPOC, not an Ewok from Star Wars. An EPOC is exercise post-oxidative consumption, which means that you continue to burn fat following exercise. So how many times have you done a class, you've gone for a shower, half an hour later you're still sweating? That is an example of ways that we can burn fat. These logical things don't work when you get older, especially if you're a woman going through menopause. And that is because instead of storing the fat underneath your skin, which you will still do, okay, you can still pinch an inch, pinch it under your chin, pinch it on your belly, you store more fat wrapped around your internal organs. So it wraps around the heart, wraps around the liver, and it wraps around the layers of your intestines. Now, this is metabolically active fat, okay, but it is what's called stubborn fat. It's very hard to get it to burn when you're exercising. When you're exercising, you only access a small amount of your stubborn fat. You can access your subcutaneous fat, but not the stubborn fat. Even women who are slim and are in their 40s, 50s or 60s will have this layer of internal fat that they're going to find more difficult to shift. What this means is this. You can be doing exactly the same amount of exercise that you used to in your 20s and 30s, but your fat burning potential diminishes and you cannot access your stubborn fat stores unless you change the way that you exercise. Now, this for me has been mind-blowing because as a personal trainer, I would give you a steady program that would be progressive over weeks, that would include cardio and weights and a calorie restriction in your diet, and I would expect to see weight loss anywhere between 1 and 2 pounds a week. Okay, so that's between half and a kilo a week. That's considered to be an achievable, normal amount for any human being to do if you just apply the rules of 500 calories a day, burn 250, eat 250 less. Simple maths, simple programming, easy money for the personal trainer because you can give the same program out to many people. But when you give it out to a 50-year-old person, it's not the same. And part of the reason is to do with that muscular contraction that we talked about. And part of it is to do with the distribution of fat and the way that that changes how we go into that fat burning cycle. So if you like the kind of science around it, it's called the Krebs cycle. So let's have a look at the muscle mass first. So part of what we said was when you want to burn calories, okay, so think of it like a fire, you cause the muscle to contract and it demands energy. I need more energy to contract. When you're younger, you have more muscle fibre, okay? So your energy potential is greater. As we get older, we lose muscle potential, okay, because we lose muscle mass. It's called sarcopenia. It's a natural aging process. So you might find you become weaker, your grip strength reduces, your ability to lift heavy things reduces, your ability to carry shopping, to do gardening, to do any kind of everyday tasks. If you see that starting to go down, that is your body's indicating that your muscle mass is reducing. So we want to start by increasing the burn potential in the muscle, but we also need to look at the distribution factor. Now, when we get older, when we eat calories, okay, so say like I'm eating 2,000 calories a day, I might not be burning those 2,000 calories a day off. And instead of the pathway that your body will follow when you're younger to store it around the outside of your muscle, it changes and it stores it around the inside. You then tend to get these knock-on effects to your health. So fat that is stored around your internal organs is more linked to illness and disease. This is called your cardiometabolic profile. So we talk about cardio belonging to your heart, working your heart, okay, exercising, moving. Metabolic, how do we access the fat stores by moving? Profile. And what it's saying is that when you're young, your cardio, your heart beating and exercising, and your metabolism are usually higher. And as we get older, it diminishes. That means we don't burn up as fat the same. We don't burn up the fat the same that's circulating in our bloodstream. So we can get a high level of cholesterol in our bloodstreams. We can get a collection of cholesterol in our bloodstreams that hardens the arteries, which increases blood pressure. That in turn can lead to other diseases. You will find that you cannot access and burn the energy the same. So you're more at risk of type 2 diabetes. You're more at risk of obesity. And you're more then at risk of osteoporosis and cancer. So people who are obese have a higher cancer risk. We know this happens. Stats will show us this happens. And so we start to see, like, how do we change to burn the fat that is accumulating around our internal organs, which is stubborn, which is hard to access, as well as burn it around everything else. Because you can be a skinny person without much mass around your arms and legs and still have a little pot belly. The pot belly is usually down to this increase in fat. So, a couple of things we need to do. Number one, you need to look at your metabolic potential. All right, so your potential is how far can you go, all right? He's got potential. You know, if my muscle is weak, no matter how long I exercise, my potential to burn energy is reduced. The easiest thing to do is to lift weights. So weights work by stressing the muscle out. So within your muscle fibre, you have links of protein, okay? They're called actin and myosin. And they have the ability to pull and contract the muscle. Think of them like carriages on a train, all right? So when you have a lot, or maybe think of them as engines pulling a train. When you've got a lot of engines pulling the train, the job is easier. If you have less carriages on your train, then the muscle becomes smaller in terms of density. I always used to compare it to filling your kit bag. So if you've got your kit bag and you squish it full of clothes, it's nice and puffy and it's heavy. If you've got your kit bag, same size kit bag, and you've only got a few items in it, it's floppy. It's the same with muscles. you want to include more actin and myosin within your muscle. How do we do that? You've got to go to the gym, really. You can do exercises that are all about your body weight. So, for example, you can do things like picking up body weight, moving your own body weight. You can do squats, you can do press-ups against a wall. I think that, wall Pilates is becoming quite a thing where you're using your body weight to lift. So if you're somebody like me and I'm away about 13 stone, that's a lot of weight to lift in one go. So holding a plank or doing a press-up or doing a squat or doing a wall squat or doing a wall side plank, all of those things will make my muscles stronger. Now, you can only make your muscles stronger when you stress it. Okay, so if you don't stress it, it doesn't change. You need to think about ways that you can cause stress onto the muscle without it being too challenging so that you injure yourself, because you want to protect your body at the same time. So then your metabolic potential increases. Now, they've done lots of research into how does that change what's called your cardiometabolic profile. Weight training has great results on both your muscle. You don't have to be hugely muscular. You just want to slow down that muscle loss. And it also increases your heart strength. So if we think about walking up a hill again, if your heart is stronger, it pumps much harder. You can do it a little bit easier. So you can walk for longer, you can climb higher mountains, you can recover quicker. So having a strong heart is really key, and weight training helps. Now, you don't have to think like, I'm going to be a bodybuilder. That is not what it's about, okay? You can go in the gym and just find a machine, put the key in, lift the weight, go and do some more work, go and do some body work. It all helps. That increases your metabolic potential, but there are other ways that you can do that. One of the exercise training protocols that's found to increase your metabolic potential and burn more body fat than anything else is called HIIT. Okay, so HIIT stands for High Intensity Interval Training. Now, if you Google HIIT, you'll see like all these fit young things, okay? And I've been a fit young thing, and I used to be able to do these things where you do burpees and you jump and you do lunges and you jump on boxes and you do all these kind of different things. But that doesn't mean you have to do that exercise. What you have to do is to take the HIIT training protocol. So the HIIT training protocol says maybe 30 to 40 seconds work and maybe 10 to 20 seconds recovery, or a little bit longer if you're not so fit. What happens in HIIT is this. It's a really interesting training system. So if I said to you, okay, now listen, I know going running is great for your metabolic potential. You burn loads of calories, you lose loads of weight, all right? If you've never run before, what's going to happen is your knee or your ankle or your hip or your lower back is going to give out before your muscles have caught up. So sometimes you can start a running program, but because your body is deconditioned, your joints can't cope with the stress and the strain of impact. So instead of running for 20 minutes, you run for 20 seconds, or you jump for 20 seconds, or you do a leap for 20 seconds, or you lift a weight for 20 seconds. Mentally, it's great because you can kind of go, I can do 20 seconds. 20 seconds is easy. Let's just do it. Or you can look at ways to increase or reduce your recovery. So HIIT is accumulative. So the first time you do 20 seconds, it's not too bad. By the time you've done it 6 times, it gets worse because it really pushes your energy system and increases your metabolic potential. Now, it increases your metabolic potential not only at the time that you're exercising, but in your recovery phase. So your body does this. It works hard, it gets fitter, and it loses fitness. And then it does something called supercompensation. So you get fitter 2 days after you've done your exercise. That's when you exercise again, which is why quite often you're supposed to be exercising every other day and not every day. So a lot of people come January will kind of go like, oh, I'm so unfit, I'm going to exercise every day this week. Really, if you're over 50, it's not going to work for you. If you're not already active, don't kind of do that, because that will really stress you out. So here we go. What do we do? So we can do a weight training, we can do a HIIT protocol, and then we can have a look at your diet. Now, the diet element of it is to do with inflammation. So when we eat certain foods, we cause an inflammatory effect on the gut, and that changes the way that we have the fat distribution. The fat distribution needs to be underneath the skin and not around your internal organs. That means you try and avoid processed food, and you try and include food that increases your metabolic potential. The way that you do that is it starts in your mouth. So if you eat food that requires a lot of chewing, then you start raising your metabolic potential immediately. Within your saliva, you have an enzyme that starts to break down your food. So if you're eating, say, like a raw carrot, okay, you can't just put a raw carrot in your mouth and swallow it. Well, you could, but it wouldn't be very pleasant. But you have to chew the carrot, or you have to chew the homemade bread, or you have to chew the vegetables. That saliva then starts off the absorption process in a far better way. If you eat something that's easy to eat, so say like, I'm going to say chocolate or chips or ice cream or anything that you can just like put in your mouth and swallow, you don't have that enzyme, okay, to start the process before it goes into your gut. And you're more likely to get an inflammatory response as that food moves through the gut. Gut health is really important. You want to ensure that you've got lots of fibre in your diet to keep your gut healthy and to keep that gut biome working hard. That reduces the amount of fat that you store around your internal organs. We can still look at that calorie balance, but really you need to think about, what am I doing to raise my metabolic potential? Am I using weights? Am I using high energy short bursts? And am I eating food that's going to lift my metabolic rate? There's one other element that changes the way that your body fat is stored, and that's to do with stress. If you're a highly stressed person, you will store more body fat around the gut area. Okay, so this is the cortisol response, and the way that you can feel that you have high cortisol is you'll have some of the things like a cortisol awakening response, where you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or you wake up and you're still feeling tired. That influence of cortisol changes the way your body has its fat distribution. Think about doing relaxing things, meditation, reading, deep breathing, massage, hot baths, bedtime routine. And all, you start to build up a picture of what a healthy lifestyle looks like to tackle your body fat. Don't think that going on a diet for 2 weeks is going to have a significant impact on this, because it won't. You have to nourish your body through increasing your metabolic potential by increasing muscle mass, by eating food that requires a lot of effort, okay, so high fibre food, and by nurturing your brain to reduce the cortisol response, which distributes fat in different areas. So that's half an hour. You could do a degree on this. You could do a master's. You could do a PhD on this. There's a huge amount of information out there. And I know why so many people have asked this. And I'm hoping it's given you some pointers, if not all the answers. And if you like that kind of thing, then don't forget to get in touch. We cover these kind of things on the cafe. We cover these things in different talks. And hopefully you've enjoyed. I look forward to reading your comments, and see you all soon. Hwyl fawr pawb.